Are you ready? Seizing the moment is a great thing to be able to do in chess. This is what you win games by, and it doesn't feel like it's sort of cool or elegant or anything, just getting a random chance and take it, but it is a lot about how to get good results in chess. So always being alert, always being ready to strike when the moment arises is a really, really good thing. And people who don't, who always looking for their chances, they just get more points than the rest of us, because I'm not always alert and seeing the chance, and it happens in almost every game. There is a chance at some point where someone messes up a little bit and you have to strike at that time. So let's see a great example, because in this game white is just outplaying black back and forth and center, and suddenly there's a chance and black didn't see it, but maybe you will see it. So let's get into the game. It's from the European Chess Cup, and Matlakov is white against Rozentalis. Of course, this is a serious overmatching of Rozentalis, who was a class player, about 2600, but never been at Matlakov's level, and of course is getting older like everybody else. And the Aljechin defense is, well, it's not the best opening, but it's not a bad opening either. This line, I played this when I was desperately needing a win against Alan Stig Rasmussen, and didn't go so well in my game in the Danish Championship here. I think he played Bishop D3. Yeah, I think so. Bishop E2 is not a bad move, and just going back. And in general, we have had this pawn structure many times on GM Talks, and white is slightly better, but it's not much, and it can easily disappear. But he does control up until here, and black controls up until here, and then we are fighting over this one, sort of as a setup. But of course, as soon as black gets e5 or c5 in and exchange in the center, that all goes away, and it's probably more or less equal. So that's what white is aiming for not to happen. Kicking the knight before it can jump to an active square, and that's not an active square. And that's an active piece, and we can see that white is having more space. Knight f6 is probably necessary, but that's not really the move you would like to make, because that makes this move and this move much more difficult to achieve. Rook to the open file. The old days, Fritz would say, great move. Bishop d4, and this is all common knowledge, that you should exchange this bishop and put your pawns on white afterwards. So that's what he does. But to be honest, this position is just slightly but clearly better for white. Black's opening has been bad. He's passive, and white's gotten the bishop pair for free. So clear advantage for white already. And you of course have to cover your pawns. And the thing is here, white already have such a big advantage that if he doesn't do anything, he might even win. So black is need to do something. That knight on c7 was not doing anything good. By the way, one of the things black often would like to do here is play something like this, but that's not really nice with this bishop sitting on this diagonal. So this plan is bad. So black goes back to the c5 plan, hoping to get some control over dark squares and not leaving any weaknesses on the white squares. Rook ac8 out of this thing, and probably preparing something like this. But white didn't wait for that. He just played d5 immediately, and black is in all, well, you can say black is busted here. There's no doubt that white has a clear advantage already. And he's just keeping the bishops, 2 bishops for nothing. Very nice. Black would of course like to play knight c7, but then knight takes f7 is a problem. So So this queen here is in the way of this rook here. So let's get out of the pin. And of course, white has the same idea. This pin is annoying. Let's get out. And of course, black would love to play something like this, but all the pawns are hanging. So just take and take on e7, and it's a disaster. b7 will fall, and probably a7, and this bishop here will be extremely strong with no pawns being able to move it and attacking down on f7. So moving the knight to f4 and active square is not possible. So it has to go here because white was threatening to take, and this pawn structure is just also losing. So you cannot allow that. So going back, and here of course you could play something passive like this move and be happy, but there's no reason to do that. You can also play the more active c5 and say, okay, I have a pawn majority over here, these two versus these two, so I have the potential to make a strong free pawn. If I can combine my play on the queen side with my with maybe some sort of attack in the center on the king side, then of course I will win. Black e6, kicking the bishop, it goes back, and notice that there's not much to see on the king side, so it steps back on the king side to keep attacking the queen side. 97. Bishop d5, a typical annoying little move. Of course here doing something like this and something like bishop f6 then runs into this. So a knight f6 is a really horrible pin. So he moves b4 or after, and getting them to go, ready to make a pass pawn over here. 95, bishop e4, all very good. And of course this is nice for white. If black starts to play something like f5, then the bishop will probably maneuver into something like here and be strong on this diagonal. a5 makes sense. A normal move could be a3, but only having one pawn here is not nice. It's better to have two because you might win the other pawn. And since white is so much more active with the bishops, he prepares to keep some pawns on the board. Then queen takes, bishop takes, and yeah, bishop e3, a little bit annoying. Kicking the queen before, so it will have to go somewhere, and here, and we have white has this. Oops, sorry, this was a mistake. Something went completely wrong there, and he has to take. I guess queen takes, and knight c4. Bishop a7. I'm not sure I like this move. That's a little bit. There's no need to do this move. You could put it somewhere else on c5 maybe or something. f4. White has all. Just have to keep the harmony going. He's got all the. He can always kick the knight because this bishop is controlling the c8 square. So just making sure that this bishop here can later attack this pawn would be very nice. Just playing around this guy down here, it looks very pretty, but it cannot attack anything, can do anything, but it would be like to be exchanged against the bishop here. Rook a8, rook d7, and all look very natural, getting the pieces into play. And here comes a good move by Eduardas. Bishop e5. This bishop had to be activated, and notice that it takes away this square. And probably white should maybe play something like g3 just to make sure his king is in no trouble, and that he keeps sort of the harmony of his pieces alive. Instead, he decides to say, okay, this is the time to kick the knight, and here I'm just gonna flip the board and say, okay, you're black. So what to play here? White was totally winning, and this last move he made was a mistake. So you got your chance here. Of course, when Rozentalis was playing, he did not know that this was his chance. That's obvious. So in general, his task was much more difficult than your task. Doesn't change the fact that it's not so easy to find the way. One thing you have to realize with black is that you have to find some way to change the course of the game, because as it's going, you're just getting slaughtered. The bishops and the pass pawn, these two bishops here, and the pass pawn here, they're just killing you, and you don't have any coordination, you don't have enough space. But maybe what happens if you try to activate your pieces, and suddenly you may realize, okay, you can, if you don't want to have the solution, you can pause the video and try to find black's best move in this position. The game, Rozentalis plays this and just lost in another 3 moves. We'll see that later, but there was a chance here, and that was to play rook d8. And that's really difficult to see. The thing is, you can play, it doesn't matter which rook, it's forced to exchange it. So take, and suddenly we introduce this move. And as I'm sure that probably Matlakov saw that and thought, okay, I can just play d3, come on, no problem. And this mating threat is gone, and I'm still threatening the knight, and when it goes, this pawn will just run down, and the coordination is lost. The problem is, if you go something like this, black has this move, and that's somehow it's very difficult to see. The thing is, white does not have this pin because of the knight, and he can take the knight, but then you get into opposite colored bishops, and that's a draw, and then this is out of play, and this might be weak, but this is of course still a strong pawn. And if you take, then the knight will have access to this square, and it's not easy to kick them in this position. So after bishop d4, the position is equal. And so that was his chance. Rozentalis had his chance. He didn't see it. He played bishop b8, and we'll flip the board back again. And it was not easy to see that rook d8 would equalize here. So we could understand why Matlakov didn't see it, but we also understand why Matlakov, who is 2683 and was 2710 or something, will never be 2770. Because guys like Anand and stuff like that, they don't miss things like this. They don't miss it. So that's the difference, you could say, that between a very strong player, because he did outplay Rozentalis completely, but he just didn't finish the job. Keeping the bishop pair alive, getting ready to push it. 95, the rook was very annoying, but it just goes back. And white keeping all the, black still is not ready for coordinating, and this knight is in trouble, and Rozentalis didn't see that, so he played this move, which is a very natural move, getting rid of that bishop. This is just what you want to do. Unfortunately, after f4, the knight here is lost. So the opportunism here that black needed to find the chances there were in the position, he didn't really get it, and probably he was a little bit discouraged, which is something that happens when you are just getting pushed back and you're just losing very slowly. It's very difficult to find this energy. And after here, Rozentalis resigned. Matlakov had won what looked on the outside like a great game, but actually black could have equalized with rook d8. This was GM Talks. Thank you for watching.